Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the FMS Toyota FJ40 build series. I have a little bit of a bonus running video here. I came across this, at least new to me, section of trail that goes along this stream, and on this run I decided to actually go into the stream. The water was low enough for a change where I could actually get in here, get into some mud and some water and stream crossing, and toward the end I get back up into the rockier, kind of hillier sections. But for the beginning of this video, I really had a lot of fun on this trail. I think this is really well suited to a trail rig like this. It looks great, and I love playing around in water. Luckily, I did already waterproof everything for the most part. The 1080 ESC I installed is waterproof, of course. The brush motor is fine. I did I put my receiver into the tip of a nitrile glove that I cut off, and I just zip tied it shut around the wires. So, and it sits up pretty high, so I'm not too worried about that. It would have to be submerged for a little bit for any water to really get into there. So I didn't get into anything too extremely deep today, but I think I came close. You'll see later in this video. So really happy I did that, along with greasing the ring and pinion and the bearings and the axles. You know, the more grease you get in there, the less room there is for water. So it's something you're going to want to check every so often if you are running in conditions like this, but I would recommend doing it ahead of time, and it's just going to prolong the life of those things and just prevent rust. So that's always a good thing. I do have a few small minor changes that I made to this previous to getting out in here and running it through the stream, but we'll get into that in a minute. I am really loving the performance of this truck. It's become a lot more capable, and just stability wise, just as simply as adding the heavier wheels just made all the difference in the world, and just a lot more control with this ESC. So it's just so much more fun to drive like this. I definitely have a lot more planned with this truck, so stay tuned for some future videos coming up. And I have to say, the performance of this thing has been great. I've had zero issues. Literally the only thing I've broken on this truck are the two little front driving light pods, and that was my own fault because I just pushed it too far and flipped over backwards and snapped them off. So that's an easy fix. I'm not too worried about that. But overall, this thing has been holding up great, and I have almost 5 hours of trail running with this. Did a couple very small mods here, and maybe you can tell the difference here. I have painted some rubber window trim effect going on here. I'll cover that in the future video of the mods, but I do have the 8mm wheel hexes, so they're 3 mils wider. Pushes the wheels out a little more, hopefully a little less rubbing, a little less squeaky noises in this video. Most important thing I did, and probably the most noticeable change, is I'm running the BEC voltage on the ESC at 7.4 instead of 6. So stock is 6 volts. I'm running this at 7.4. So definitely more power, more speed out of the servo. We're going to see how that holds up. And yeah, let's just run this thing and have fun. I'm going to try and do this nice like creek run over here and see what happens, see if the servo holds up, and let's see how waterproof everything is. The other thing I did, forgot to mention, I did program in a bit of a throttle curve on my Radiolink radio. So it just has a softer initial startup. Just looking for that ultimate low speed control. And it's noticeable. It's definitely better. Just getting hung up everywhere here. Gotta go through the rocks. Still getting some squeaking, but deep we're gonna get here. There are bugs everywhere. I remembered my bug spray today, so that's a plus. But they're still swarming me. Oh boy, that's deep. Oh, we're floating a little bit there. Nice. I am still in need of some kind of driver figure. Doing a little research today, I came across a vintage Mattel action figure called Big Jim. Even though he's of my era, I don't really recall too much about Big Jim, but he seems like a cool dude. I don't want anything too cartoonish or gimmicky. I just want a cool dude to drive this truck who looks like he fits. So I think that's gonna work. I found some on eBay. I might pick up one of those guys and slap him in here and see if I can rig up one of his arms to turn with the steering wheel. I think that would be really cool. Try to exit this stream. Ooh. Be careful with the reverse here. You can hear in this spot that my slipper is slipping a decent amount. And I had already tightened it a little bit. I don't want to go too far. I'd rather have it slip than damage something. So I'm kind of okay where it is. I'll run it. If it starts to slip more, I'll just adjust it again and kind of try to keep it where it's at. I'm not too upset about that. You know, it kind of just gives you that little bit of warning, like, hey, you're pushing it a little too hard. So. Seeing how much these tires do rub, my recommendation would maybe, if you're gonna buy something, as good as these work, maybe something a little smaller like a Traxxas Canyon Trail. And if you mod that Canyon Trail by snipping out some of the lugs, there's a lot of videos online about that. They work extremely well. And I have a set, maybe I'll throw them on for a video and see what the clearances are like. I think that is a slightly smaller tire than this. It might just fit a bit better. Again, tire choices are really kind of almost unlimited. All right, I don't really know what I'm gonna try to attempt up here. Can I? Ooh, bumper clearance. No. Whoa. Servo definitely working much better at 7.4. Drag brake is full on here. Let's just see how we roll down this. Giving it a little bit of throttle. That's no throttle. And it's just creeping down nicely. Happy with that. Oh, we recovered nicely. I'm really curious to see what the leaf spring kit does with this rig. I did actually just get it in the mail today, so it shipped really quick. I had mistakenly said I got it directly from FMS in one of the previous videos, but I ended up getting it off of AliExpress, and it showed up, I think, in about a week. And I think it was like 50 bucks for the front and the rear. I looked at it real quick. I think it's gonna be an easier install than I initially thought, because it comes with the entire front, like, cross member, I guess you'd call it, where the motor mounts, the servo mounts, you know, the entire front section that fits, plastic section that fits between the frame rails. And when I compare it to what's on here already, it's identical. So this already has all the provisions, aside from actually on the axles, all the provisions for mounting the front leaf spring. So I think it's gonna save a lot of time. I just have to pull out a couple pieces off of the rear section of the frame to mount them, and I think it's gonna go pretty quick. So definitely stay tuned for a future video. I'm gonna do an install video on the leaf spring, and I'm gonna do some testing, you know, before and after, just compare not only the weight, but the amount of flex you get out of it and stability. And then I'll move on from there to shocks. I'm gonna try to find some nice shocks for this. I'm not sure, they're fairly short. The stock ones are like 65. I don't know what I'm gonna use yet, or if I'm gonna go with a longer shock maybe, and figure out a different mounting point on the chassis, or even install some type of a shock hoop. So it would just open up my choices to maybe go with like more of a standard size shock, like an 80 mil or something like that. So we'll see what happens. Once I get the leaf springs installed, I'll have a better idea of what shocks I can use. But yeah, I can't wait to do that. I think that's gonna be super cool. Oh, nice. You'll see here that I moved from that kind of low-level stream and mud section of trail up to this higher, rockier section here. And it occurred to me while I was doing that this was the smarter way to do this trail loop, right? The lower trail is pretty new to me. I'm really happy I found it. I think it's super cool. But it occurred to me that it's much smarter to do, if you have a trail that has some water and mud and so on, it's smarter to do that first, because then as you're running the truck, it dries out and most of the water is going to squish its way out of the wheels. You know, that's why I always vent my tires by the actual tread, so that the water can come out of the lowest point of the wheel. But it just made a lot of sense to me as I'm driving this. I'm like, oh good, my truck is drying out. It's the best way to dry out a truck is to actually run it, so that you keep all the bearings turning, and kind of any bit of grease and oil in the bearings will kind of force any of the water that got in there out. And it just saves you a lot of time and effort when you get home from having to dry off the truck and kind of re-lubricate everything. It's not a bad idea to do that anyway, but if you run this for like 45 minutes to an hour after running through water, a lot of it is going to be dried out. So I mentioned that these silicone inserts need a little bit of breaking in, and you could see, I think we've reached that point. Look at the nice squish we're getting on this front wheel. It's like the perfect amount. Looks like a nice aired down, realistic tire pressure. The rear is getting even more, but just really providing some nice traction as I get stuck. But that was more of a axle bottom out issue than anything. Thing about northern New Jersey, you can kind of think you're out in the middle of the woods, you don't see any people, and then off in the distance, you probably can't see it, maybe you can hear it. There's a backyard with a pool. There's a serious game of Marco Polo going on right now, so that's always fun. Great summertime activity. But hey, benefit is, if you were to have an issue, you can just go to the neighbor's house and ask for a lift, or borrow some tools. Maybe they have a spare LiPo battery. You know, things like that. What is that noise? Oh, we got branches. The Crack of Doom. Shout out to Exocaged. He's got some great videos. He's a big fan of tire squish and inserts. Oh yeah, look at that, nice. He's got Joe at Exocaged, has some custom tire, 3D printed tire inserts that look pretty cool. I don't know the price. I need to check out his website. Oh. Extremely steep descent here. I should know better, but I'm pretty confident with this truck. Make sure my drag brake's turned up. I'm gonna try to find a line going down this. So far, so good. It's within range of me catching it if it goes out of control. And of course, it never looks as steep on video as it is in real life. Very nice. I mean, this just has bad outcome written all over it because this is kind of just a huge boulder with no good way to come off of it. Yeah, I should just hand to God this guy. Let's just see. It might be all right. Yeah, very nice. By far, the biggest clearance issue with this rig is the rear bumper, and specifically that little tray that hangs down under the trailer hitch. But I guess over enough time it'll just wear out. I don't know. I don't really have any plans on switching it up at this point. The other problem too, if you pull the bumper off and make a lot more clearance back there, you're gonna just hang up the rear taillights a little bit more than you do now. So I don't know if there's any really great solution. If you guys found like a cool bumper for this, it would be really cool to get like a nice like steel bumper that is maybe a little more high clearance, something that kind of looks cool and scale, but maybe a little more like modified version, as long as it provides more clearance. So maybe that's something I'll look into in the future, because it really does limit capabilities a bit. So that'll do it for this video. Stay tuned. I have a winch install coming up next, along with some LED lights I'm going to be installing on the rear tail lights. And of course, after that, we're going to get into the suspension, do that leaf spring install, and then take it out for another run and see where we end up. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Later. Ooh, we're gonna roll this sucker. Let's quit while we're ahead.